Hello, everyone. My name is Mark Betts. I am the founder of N2C Leadership Consulting. And as a leader, I am passionate about building other leaders, developing the people around me, and helping them on their journey into leadership. My presentation today is going to center around a framework that I've developed called Lead Your Sphere. This is a leadership mindset framework. There aren't new leadership principles that I've put in there. There aren't new leadership principles that I've newly discovered, and they've cracked the code of how to be an excellent leader, and just boom, voila, all of a sudden you just know how to lead and you're always just killing it. You never make any mistakes. That's not reality. But what I think Lead Your Sphere does is it gives us a framework to follow, mindsets to focus on as we look to earn the influence of people within our spheres. The four elements of the Lead Your Sphere mindset are know, serve, own, and lead. Know, serve, own, and lead. And as we go through the presentation today, I'm going to break down briefly what each of those means. But I'm hoping to add value to you and give you some practical tips of how you can form habits that will develop those mindsets of know. Well, let's talk about the mindset of know. What does it mean to know your sphere? Knowing your sphere, it breaks into three different habits. Okay. The habit of identifying your sphere, the habit of knowing yourself, and the habit of building trust within your sphere. The first habit, identifying your sphere, all it takes is for you to look around and notice the spheres of influence that you already are in. One of the biggest things about leadership is that it's for anybody who is willing to step into it. You don't have to look far, and it doesn't have to be positional. It doesn't have to be, oh, you're a manager, or you have the keys for this, or you've been given the title of this or that. That's not what leadership is. Lead Your Sphere points that out. Knowing and identifying your sphere. Is it your friends? Are you a student and you're working on a group project? That's a sphere. Are you an athlete and you're on a team? That's a sphere. Are you a coach and you have other coaches? That's also a sphere. Everybody has spheres of influence that we can step into leadership if we so choose. The tool for that, the tool tip I give for that is to sit down with a pen and paper, old school, and just write out all the spheres of influence that you know are in your life. After you do that, you have a list: friends, family, school, the whole list. Okay. Take one of those and say, this is the sphere that I will intentionally engage in terms of leadership. This is the sphere that I will work towards being a leader in. Leadership takes intentionality, and we have to identify where our leadership opportunities are if we want to focus on growing as a leader. So that's my advice there. Knowing yourself, the second habit of that knowing your sphere mindset. This is so important because as leaders, we cannot develop others if we don't know ourselves. We have to know who we are, and we have to be comfortable in our own skin. It's such a liberating thing. I remember experiencing for myself, just reading books, and going through different trainings, and beginning to understand that I don't have to be somebody else in order to be a leader, and neither do you. Nobody does. All of us are created the way that we are, intentionally created. That doesn't mean we're perfect, and that doesn't mean we don't have flaws or we don't have challenges to work through. But what that does mean is if you know who you are, it gives you the freedom to be yourself in your role as a leader. And ultimately, that's the key to success. You can't fake it till you make it as a leader. You have to know who you are, and you have to be comfortable with who you are. My tool tip for that is also simple: read books. If you haven't taken some personality tests, if you don't know your Enneagram, or you haven't taken a DISC survey, there's all sorts of programs out there. Some cost money, some don't. My advice to you is check some of them out. It will give you an idea, and it will give you a framework into who you are, and that will give you some license to be who you are in your leadership role. And that's what it means to know yourself. It's an ongoing thing. We are all growing. We are all changing. And as we go through life, different things are going to change us. And that's a good thing. So the pursuit of knowing ourselves is a constant pursuit. That's why it's a habit. Another great tip for this is journaling. spending time every day or weekly and just recap how the week went, recap your frustrations, recap the things you were excited about, recap how your life is going. That will give you a way to process, and you'll be surprised at what you'll discover about yourself through that process. The third habit of knowing your sphere is building trust. Such a huge topic, and we could make plenty of presentations about just that topic alone. But the main thing for this presentation that I want to focus on is it's foundational. Any sphere, whichever sphere you've chosen to engage in as a leader, your first goal should be to establish trust within that group. How do we build trust? Building trust comes down to three things. The first thing is empathy. The second is competency. And the third is authenticity. To sum each of those things up, empathy is you're able to step into someone else's shoes and understand their experience. That doesn't mean that you fully experientially understand what they're going through, but it means that you're able to step into their perspective and understand what their perspective is. Competency, exactly what it sounds like. You have to be a competent individual in order for others to trust you. If somebody has given you a job to do or a task to get completed, you have a job description, you have agreed to complete a task, my advice to you is focus on the little competencies that you can accomplish, because the more consistent you are with that, the more the trust will build. If you say that you're going to be able to accomplish something and you sign on, hey, yes, I will take care of this part of that group project, focus on it, engage with that intentionally, because people in your sphere are looking for competent people they can rely on and understand, hey, when Mark says he's going to get that done, he gets it done and he does it well. The third thing to build trust is authenticity. And this really piggybacks on the idea of knowing yourself. You can't be authentic if you don't know yourself. Authenticity is just being real. It doesn't mean saying whatever's on your mind the moment it pops into your head. It doesn't mean saying all the rude things that you probably should filter out. Authenticity is not a license to be rude. Authenticity is permission that we give ourselves to just be real. If we're in a tough situation as leaders, we can't fool everybody else around us that, hey, this situation isn't that bad. They all know that it is. So they want to know, hey, they recognize the tough situation we're in. Be real, be authentic. Hey, we're in a tough spot, but here's what we're going to do to get out of it. That's where the leadership comes into play. All right, let's talk about the mindset of serve. What does it mean to serve your sphere? The service mindset is broken into three different habits. The habit of humility, the habit of engagement, and the habit of consistency. Humility, engagement, consistency. Humility is obviously a very abstract thing. It's a word that gets thrown around a lot. The bottom line with humility in leadership is you have to see yourself as part of the sphere. You have to see yourself as no better than anyone else in the sphere. Leadership is not a position that you get raised up to look down on other people. In a sphere, as we move things forward in a leadership position, as we move things forward, we're getting goals accomplished, we're knocking things out, things are getting done, things are going great. The moment that our ego gets in the way and we forget what everybody in the sphere has done is the first step to disaster. Your ego is always going to be the biggest limit to your leadership success. Your ego is always going to be the biggest limit to your leadership success. What's one way to combat that? One thing that I have found is, again, back to journaling. I'm a pen and paper guy. I like to sit down and just write my thoughts out when I have time to. And one great way to combat just ego and working on that habit of humility is gratitude. Sit down, and when you're journaling, whether again at night, maybe it's once a week, whenever you do that, sit down and write 3 to 5 things that you're thankful for. When we take a step back and we remember that we aren't it. our leadership only goes as far as the people around us who are willing to follow us. We can't forget that. The moment that we forget that is the moment that we start to lose influence rather than earn it. The second thing in a serve your sphere mindset is engagement. This kind of goes back to the first step of identifying your sphere. Intentionality changes everything. Intentional leadership changes everything. If we want to lead our sphere, we need to engage with what the sphere is doing. We can't just walk into the room and say, okay, well, I'm the leader now. That's not how that works. We have to be in there and we have to go through what it takes to get things done with our sphere. Engagement is simply just recognizing what the goals of the team are, the goals of the sphere are, what are we trying to get accomplished, how do we win? So figuring out, okay, what does success look like within the sphere, and then throw your resource behind it, engage and see it through. The third thing is consistency. Talked a little bit about it with competency. They are so hand in hand. Consistency is, in this instance, is more about matching what you say with what you do. So if you say that you're going to accomplish something, it needs to be a priority to get it done. The tooltip for this, for me, is I have a list of daily routines that I want to focus on. These might be simple little things like taking out the trash. I quickly forget that the trash needs to be taken out. So what I did was I put that on my list. It might seem laughable, but it was something that I needed to get better at and I wanted to focus on, and I wanted to be more consistent. So I put it on there, and every single day I check it off the list. The tool tip for consistency is make small commitments and make sure that you get those completed, and then you build that habit, that routine of consistency. Okay, let's talk about ownership. What does it mean to own your sphere? The habits for owning your sphere are self-discipline, protection, and responsibility. Every leader is going to be faced with elements where they have to be the ones to hold themselves back. Leadership comes with some freedom, and that's a beautiful thing. But the freedom is there to free us as leaders up for more ways to serve, not more ways to take advantage of the sphere. And that's a key thing. I've seen many times over the years where high performers, they're striving and they're trying to get into a leadership position. That's the goal. They want to get there. They want to get that bigger paycheck. They want to get, have more control over what's going on. And then they get there and they're great for a time, but they lack the self-discipline to tell themselves no when there are opportunities to maybe slack off, or opportunities to look for ways to avoid serving. The only way to combat that is self-discipline. And it's a hard thing. I struggle with this myself frequently. It's just the ability to tell yourself no for future benefits. We have to be able to tell ourselves no. The second habit in owning your sphere is protection. Protecting is a huge element of leadership. Simon Sinek says leadership is a choice to protect those people that we are standing shoulder to shoulder with. And it's as simple as that. People will not band together if they don't feel safe, whether that be safe from outside forces or whether that be safe from the people that they're standing shoulder to shoulder with. Don't overthink it. Protection can be as simple as stopping a rumor when you hear it and it gets to you. Don't spread it, because you're choosing to protect the people that would hurt. Protection can look like giving people the benefit of the doubt. Maybe somebody made a mistake. Maybe somebody, did something that they shouldn't have, or they dropped the ball on something. Give somebody the benefit of the doubt. That's protection. It's simple things that you can do that will help build the trust and let people know that, hey, this person has my back. This person is willing to protect me and what I'm trying to get done. The third habit for owning your sphere is responsibility, taking responsibility. And this is a hard thing to do for leaders at any level of their leadership journey. Taking responsibility and recognizing that simply means that when you're in your sphere and you're leading your sphere, you understand that the wins belong to the team and the errors fall on your shoulders. We have to understand that everything that goes on in our sphere comes through our leadership. So if there's a breakdown in communication, we need to examine ourselves and say, is that on me? Where could I have done better? If there's a breakdown in process, if there's a breakdown in goals that we're trying to achieve, we have to take responsibility of that. Don't point the finger. Don't say, well, they dropped the ball. They should have known better. If they should have known better, okay, what could I have done to make it more clear to them? What could I have done? These are the questions that we have to ask. And those are the tips that I would give to you as you look to take responsibility within your sphere. The fourth and final mindset for lead your sphere is lead. Know, serve, own, and lead. The 3 habits for leading your sphere are vision, clarity, and unity. Leadership is not about telling people what to do. Hey, you go do this, you go do that. Leadership is about inspiring people to create a better tomorrow. And that might sound a little bit cheesy, but it's all about moving people towards better tomorrow, better life, better world. We can't do that without a vision. And the elements of lead your sphere are all about creating an environment where within your sphere, where it's not just you commanding everybody what to do. Once you have a vision and clarity and unity, people within your sphere are inspired. They want to see this vision come to life. They use their own thoughts. They use their own energy. They use their own passion to make this vision come to life. And that's when you know that you've really got something. That's what we're trying to accomplish. None of us has the energy to constantly will groups of people forward. We need a vision that other people can join in with. That's something that we can lead. Those are people that we can band together with and see this thing through. What are we trying to accomplish? How are we going to make the world a better place? And the tool tip for that is simple. You just have to identify it. You have to sit down and think it through and say, what are we trying to do? Depending on the sphere that you chose at the beginning of the presentation, I'm sure one popped into your head. Depending on the sphere, that conversation might look different. Maybe that's not a conversation at all. But for you to say, okay, what's my vision for this sphere? What are we trying to do? And then letting the people in your sphere know. A big thing about vision is selling the vision. You have to be able to say, hey, I think it would be great if we moved towards this. And if people like that, then they will join you. And that's something that you can lead. You can serve that and you can lead. Clarity is the relentless pursuit of the vision. Clarity looks like removing distractions. Clarity looks like talking about the vision. Clarity looks like giving details about the vision. But more than anything, clarity is about reminding people of the vision. If you don't like repeating yourself, if you can't stand repeating yourself, you need to think about whether or not stepping into a leadership role or a leadership mindset really is for you. So much about leadership is pursuing clarity, and so much about pursuing clarity is saying the same thing over and over and over again, and not in a commanding overlord sort of way. But the bottom line is that people in our spheres, people in our lives have a million things going on. They have a million other things going on than what you are caring about and what you are trying to work towards. So as a leader, I need to recognize that. And I just need to give consistent reminders of, hey, here's what we're working towards. Here's what we're trying to do. The main 2 tips on that are removing distractions. Sometimes that can be a hard conversation. If you're working on a group project and, everybody's kind of sat down and there's always that awkward moment of like, okay, how do we transition from chatting time, friend time to, okay, let's get work done. There's no shortage of great things to talk about or focus on, but clarity is what we need in order to keep our sphere moving towards what we're setting out to do. The habit of unity really starts with the belief that there's nothing more powerful than a unified sphere, a unified group of people working towards one set goal. It's really the intersection of vision and clarity. I believe that if you have a strong vision and people are bought into that, and you are relentlessly pursuing clarity, and everybody understands, hey, here's what we're working towards, you will have a unified sphere. Unity is all about people banding together and putting their differences aside to see something accomplished. And that's the ultimate goal. For me, there's nothing more rewarding and more satisfying than. I have two tool tips for unity. One of the biggest things, this may be the biggest thing in the presentation. If you're in any sort of leadership position, please apply this within that role. Constantly remind each individual how what they are doing impacts the overall team. People want to be part of something bigger. People want to know that what they're doing matters. As a leader, that's my job to remind them, because it's easy to get into the daily grind and to get into it's just another job or it's just another this or that, right? But when somebody comes up and says, hey, I see what you're doing day in and day out, and here's how it matters for the team, that's such a breath of fresh air. And that's so important for us as leaders to remember. Our sphere, our people, they need that. They need us to breathe that life into them. And what that does too, in terms of unity, is it just lets everybody know how everybody's connected. Everybody plays a part in moving the team forward. And then my second kind of tool tip for unity is celebrating wins. Celebrate individual wins with the whole team, because what that's going to do is that's going to foster an environment that explains and shows the whole team, hey, when one person succeeds, here's how it moves all of us forward. Here's how when one person engages and buys into what we're trying to accomplish, moves all of us forward. Here's how all of us benefit because of the efforts of this one person, this individual who is serving the team. People like recognition. People deserve recognition. It's not about just, giving them recognition because they want it. People deserve that because of how they're moving the sphere forward. Ultimately, leadership is earning influence and moving people into a better tomorrow. My hope is, and my goal is, that Lead Your Sphere, this framework, will give you some tools. I know it's a quick kind of trip through so many different leadership principles, but I hope and pray that something, even if just one thing, has stuck out to you as far as a habit that you can really latch onto. If you apply one of any of these things consistently, you will see benefits in your leadership. You will see benefits as you look to lead your sphere.